Lonely night, spiraling, no one that I can call. Parents gone again, I'm so alone.
Pretty good shape, Tommy.
My toes are on.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're live. I see us live anyway, so we're just going to go with that we're live. And
Great.
fantastic. I love your names coming up on here as Tommy, so that's good. So we got that working for us.
Nice.
Yeah, we're
Be
hanging
fun.
out in my basement today. You're hanging out at your house today because we're in snowy Indiana, which is always fun.
Yep.
I know. This is good, man. We had to kind of pivot a little from the last time we tried to do this with some technical issues. But like I said before, there's always more than one way to skin a cat.
That's right. Yeah, this is cool that we can meet this way too. And
I
you knew what was going on though. Like you figured it out fast. So
Yeah, I don't know. It's when you're a homegrown, I guess, podcast in 2026, you either got to like figure this stuff out one way or clunk your way through it. And I'm probably more of the way of clunking my way through it. You know what I mean? So, but it all works.
I think I'm right there with you, Brandon.
Yeah,
My
it all-
technicals, I'd have to kind of fumble around.
Yeah, it's all good though, right? At the end of the day, look, there's no pressure on us, and I think that's the great thing. Here's the deal: I don't have any corporate companies, Tommy, that I have to meet expectation for.
That's
I don't
right.
have that problem yet.
Yeah, you're not going to have some performance review coming up. Yeah.
Building a refuge doesn't have a corporate sponsor where they're like, okay, buddy, you didn't have more than 500,000 viewers today, so.
Yeah, quality needs to improve.
Yeah, well, but here's the deal. I feel like it's quality over quantity, buddy, and that's why that's why we have you today. So I'm super excited about it, man.
Thanks, Brandon. It's always
Yeah.
it's always good hanging out with you, man. It's good.
Yeah, well, just for anybody that's listening in and for our audience anyways, this is the Building a Refuge mental health hour, as we call it. We typically come to everybody on a Thursday night from Indie Coffee Roasters, so I do want to say thanks to them. Diane and her team are fantastic folks, and we just love hanging out. They're very supportive of us. They have 4 locations around central Indiana, one right downtown Carmel. They have actually one on the north end of Carmel, one in Lafayette, and one in Noblesville. So I know Austin probably would be pretty proud of me that I actually got all that correct. Sometimes I say they only have 3, but they have 4. But we really enjoy them. So anytime you can get anybody to sponsor, like that, Tommy, you've been around Building a Refuge for a long time, and you know how hard it is sometimes to get folks to kind of jump on board and help us. But man, they've been super nice to us. And I was so thankful that you came out the other night and hung out. We got to have some coffee, and we had a great chat.
Yeah, it was exactly. That was nice. And,
Yeah.
the next time, and I really liked Indie Coffee Roasters, by the way. That's a cool place, and the people are really good. So it's nice to be connected to the community like that. But yeah, it was good to hang out.
Yeah, it's when we kind of started this, for those that don't know you, Tommy Parry, we got connected back in 2018. I think it was you and I and Eric and Mike and a bunch of us kind of just sat down and just said, hey man, there's nobody really doing what we do at Building a Refuge, right? And it's not really that complex. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just getting together kind of in environments like this, or if it's a coffee shop, and we just hang out and have a chat, if you will, a talk, right? And I don't think any subject is barred from a discussion. And there's no expectation, and I think that's quite honestly what the fun of this has been. And you were a big part of it on the front end, man.
It's been really awesome to see how things have progressed over the years, and just the people that have been impacted for sure. How I found you and Eric was through Mike Rekoff, because when I moved here, I had done a little bit of research. I'd learned a little bit about him, and I think he may have been on, I forget, a podcast or something with the mayor. Anyway, I reached out to him and he put me in touch with Eric. I had a conversation with Eric, and then I met you.
Yeah.
And that was really, really special. That was a cool
Well, yeah, I mean, look, man, I mean, I think my feelings kind of when it comes to this, and how we get led down the way of connections and so on and so forth. And I'm grateful for it, Tommy, and you and I have been really good friends. And I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, I admire you, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but you've had some pretty demanding jobs over the last couple of years, and you even said, hey, look, I need to take a time out and
Yeah.
kind of step away from some roles that I did with building a refuge. But you didn't really have to step away. That's the cool part of this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you had to go anywhere.
Yeah. And yeah, I think things have been busy for me and for a lot of us, and I think that's a good point, right? Like it was never built like that. Building a
No,
refuge.
no. Yeah, no. So, well, let's just kind of jump in, man. I had some notes anyways for Thursday night, but we're gonna
Yeah.
call it a happy Sunday, snowy Sunday mental health hour. So that's what it is. But
Awesome.
anyways,
Yeah.
like I mentioned before, this is the Building a Refuge mental health hour. Building a Refuge been in existence since 2018. We do things kind of a little different, I guess. We don't put really expectations around, if you want to call it mental health, mental wellness, quotes, whatever, man. We just try to have real conversations, and we try to do this in a way that we hope that it's valuable for people. But Tommy, you've been again a big part of this. Tommy Parry, originally from where?
Fairfax, Virginia.
Fairfax, Virginia. That's exactly right. I think I shared with you a while ago when I traveled out to Virginia. I was corrected very quickly that Virginia is not in the East. It is. It is really. It's really. What do I want to put it? The stakes are really in the South. And I got kind of corrected on that pretty quickly. So would you agree with that?
It depends on what part of Virginia, but potentially, absolutely.
Yeah.
But like Northern Virginia, also called Nova, is its own enclave. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like it feels a lot more like DC or a northeastern kind of place. Pretty competitive, kind
Yeah.
of traffic, pretty cutthroat. So
This is
Northern
pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, dude, Northern Virginia is kind of competitive as hell. It's very cutthroat.
Yeah.
It's great. I mean, great. Like, don't get me wrong. I grew up there. It's a lot good about it, but it feels a lot different from the rest of Virginia. Northern Virginia is its own little section. But if you go, definitely depending on where you went, Brandon, in Virginia, you will like, especially Hampton Roads area, south of Richmond. You start getting some southern, slight old school Southern Virginia accents.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of Civil War history, a lot of
Yeah.
Revolutionary War history, tons of history in Virginia. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was when I was out there with a sales rep of mine. We were driving around, and she took me to the Appomattox Courthouse, which I
Yeah.
was just. I'm kind of a history nut. Now I'm not a like professed to be smart at history, but I really enjoy learning about history, and
For sure.
just man, when you just think about what happened there, holy smokes, man! Like I just kind of got blown away by it, but that was pretty cool. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Virginia is a great place to visit. Especially,
And on a fun note, I got to go to a Flying Squirrels game in Richmond, so that was
sweet.
pretty cool.
Are they in the same league as like the Savannah Bananas?
I,
Is that the?
well, I think they're in the same league as like the Indianapolis Indians. You know what I
Oh,
mean? They're like that farm team kind of deal.
gotcha. I was wondering if
Yeah.
they were like that kitschy.
No.
Like the yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep. So, anyway, so you're from Virginia. You came out to Indiana how long ago?
2018.
2018. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I didn't realize that it was right around then when we all met and so on.
That's right. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
right. I think we bought our house in September 2018.
Okay.
But like I got on it with trying to network and market, and that's when
Yeah.
I emailed Mike. Mike told me to email Eric, and
Yeah.
then I did, and then we all met. I met you through Eric.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mike.
It's awesome. You got a wonderful family, Tommy, wife, and
Yeah, yeah. I've got two kids, a son and a daughter, and they're elementary school aged, and they're fun. And
your great
yeah,
dad, great
yeah.
fun dad, probably out in the snow with him today.
Actually, yes. And I was using the snowblower, and my daughter in particular was like running through the snow. She's really big. She says winter is her favorite. Good for her.
Yeah.
Not mine. But I got the snowblower that my neighbor had. My neighbor let me borrow a snowblower, and I was just shooting the snow on her, and she was like asking for it. She wanted
That's
to just be
great.
covered in the snow from the snowblower. So
That's fantastic, man. Well, and it is like for those that are listening in, anyways, from around, hopefully around the world, anyways. We got a lot of snow in central Indiana today, upwards of about 9 inches, I think,
it's still
and it's
snowing.
a very dry snow. So if you're familiar with the kind of great west of the United States, where they get very powdery, dry snow, that's the kind of snow it is today. So it's not that wet, heavy crap, but a lot of fun to be out and mess around. And it's not. I mean, it's cold, but it's not terribly cold today.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. It was colder a day or two ago. It was like negative. It was like 1 degree and negative. Felt like negative 14. I think
yeah,
right now it's like 13 degrees, which is an improvement, I guess.
yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome, man. Well, I always like to do that, Tommy. I mean, you know how much you mean to me, and I always try to kind of frame some front end, conversation up around folks. At least people that have been a part of building a refuge and on this mission with us and what we do to get a little bit of a background because you're not only a wonderful husband, you're a great dad, you're a great friend, and it's just fun to have you on here. And and I think additionally to that, your background is very helpful to what we do because I think as we were kind of chatting last night or Thursday at the coffee shop, I think you and I kind of have a like-minded approach when it comes to mental health, and you
Yeah,
and I both have experienced, tragic loss in our life by suicide, and we've had different perspectives of that. Right? You lost your father, I lost my brother, but yet one and the same, man. And so I think what that does is it creates good discussion, if we allow that to happen. And so,
yeah.
just for our audience, Tommy, if you can share a little bit about kind of your professional background too, and what you do, and kind of how you got into that.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I would definitely say that experience with my dad when I was 15 shaped me. Like it certainly changed a lot of things for me, but it definitely led me on a path of trying to understand just why people do what they do. I think all of us at some point get there. We get hurt or something happens in our lives, and we go, "What's going on here? Like, why did this happen? And what's why?" And so that was generally my leaning. I took a class in senior year in high school. That was a psychology class. I found it interesting. And then when I went to college, I kind of had in the back of my mind that I'd probably try to major in psychology.
Yeah.
And then right before, like I remember one semester, I went to a lot of different schools too. Like I jumped around a lot. I was indecisive. But one year I was going to University of Utah, and when I was going there, I remember having a conversation, I think with my mom, and I
Hmm.
think she was trying to steer me practically. She was like trying to give me some good advice, and she did give me good advice. Like she's like,
Sure.
"Hey, I don't know how much psychology majors make, Tommy. Like, are you sure you want to, go into psychology?" And like that's true. Like a bachelor's degree in psychology will get you a job at Aldi or the car wash. Um,
That's why I
so
love you, man.
yeah, it's true. I mean, you're not going to do much with a bachelor's in psychology. You could become an RBT now, which I can talk about later. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah.
um, I yeah, ended up I like dropped all my classes right before classes start and put up and subscribed to. So I signed up to all the psych classes because I was like, I can't do this. Doesn't feel right. This is my path. So I committed to it. I did a bachelor's in psychology, and then at that time I was still working retail.
Yeah.
And I was like desperate I knew I had to go on for more education. And I was desperate to find that. Like, where did I want to get a PsyD? Do I want to get a PhD? Do I want to get a master's? I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know. So one day, like, not long after I had finished my bachelor's degree, I got a call from a friend who's trying to move back to Virginia from California. She was a friend that I went to church with. My mom, told her she could stay at our house, while she was getting on her feet. She ended up getting a job. Her name is Kristen Davis, by the way. She's
Okay.
been a good friend most of my life.
Yeah.
Good person. And she called me one day because she had gotten a job as an administrative assistant at an ABA company in Falls Church, Virginia. And ABA is applied behavior analysis. It's common treatment, most associated with kids with autism. So she calls me and she's like, "Hey, Tommy, would you like to work with kids? Would you be interested in that? We're looking for people." And I was like, "Yes, anything to get me out of retail." I get in, I start this job at Alternative Behaviors in Falls Church doing ABA therapy, and I like it. It's a match, it's objective, it's data driven, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
science, evidence based. It matches a lot of my preferences, anyways. And then I enjoyed being around kids and working with kids with
Yeah,
disabilities.
yeah.
So like shortly after that, and I know I'm talking a lot here.
No, I love it. It's great context, man. Yeah, absolutely.
After about 3 months doing that, I was like, this is it. I'm going back to school. So I went back to school and I did a master's in special ed with a focus on applied behavior analysis. Did that in 2 years, got my BCBA, which is Board Certified Behavior Analyst certificate, and then later licensure. And then a year after that, I kind of noticed a gap in um, working with parents and working with families and wanting to provide kind of wraparound care. Like, the parents struggle too. It's really hard raising a kid with a disability. Autism, was one of the focuses, but we worked with a lot of other folks with disabilities, fetal alcohol syndrome, ODD,
Sure.
OCD, you name it. And then I decided that I wanted to be able to help the parents as well. That was my transition into counseling, starting a counseling degree. And then this whole time, like I did the counseling degree in 5 or 6 years
Oh,
because
wow.
I was still working. I did it part time, and I also didn't want any student loan debt, so I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
did it
yeah.
as I could afford it.
Yep,
Um,
I agree.
and I'm really glad I did that because I have no
Yeah.
debt. But
It's a
so yeah,
good place to be, man. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's kind of where I came. Like and it ended up being really interesting. Like my son ended up getting an autism diagnosis when he was 3. I was kind of already paying attention to that a little bit, developmental milestones and those sorts of things. But
Yeah.
it's definitely started with what happened to me when I was 15. Why do people do what they do? How do we help people? How do I help myself? Right?
Yeah.
How do I
Yeah.
get through
Yeah.
this? And then how do I help other people? So that
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, and I think, and thanks for that, man. I just, like I said, as many of these as we've done, I always try to give, I always try to put myself in the shoes of somebody that's listening in on this that don't have any idea about, who you or I,
Yeah,
am, and as it relates kind of to, building a refuge and why, right? Because a lot
yeah,
of times, anytime even I listen to podcasts, the first thing I'm going to listen, like, why am I listening to this, right? What am I going to gain from it? And I think it's important, because again, we try to, what we try, and I always tell, folks that ask me this, are like, well, what are you trying to do at building a refuge? I mean, what are you all trying to do? And this is a team, let me make sure I'm clear on that too, right? We have a lot of people, and I almost look at this as a, like a co-op collaborative almost, right? Because, we have Eric, right? Eric Robinson been a huge part of this and our journey. And Eric and Jen live out in Colorado now, right? And Eric, I know, is doing a lot of work, and he's trying to figure out, like, hey, how can I expand what we do in Indiana
yeah,
out here? And I have a cousin of mine up in Wisconsin, and they're trying to figure out how can we do this in Wisconsin, like, and how we do it here in Indiana, because quite frankly, Tommy, we do get a lot of good, solid feedback, and I think
yeah,
the reason is simply this: is I don't think we put any expectation on what we do around mental health, and I frame that up that way because, one, again, you and I are very like-minded. I think that's why we become friends as we have in this. But talk to me a little bit about what that kind of means to you to not set expectation when it comes to mental health, right? I mean, it is a big topic. It's a very big topic, and we know it is today,
yeah,
right? But I think as we were talking at the coffee shop the other night, um, it's a real slippery slope. You know what I mean? Just mental health in general, because we can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't feel it. Like I mentioned to you, right? Like the term brain health,
yeah,
right? And I like the term, I really do, because I do think the brain is an organ like anything else, but it's a very unique one, right? The heart has specific functions. The kidneys do, the lungs do, things like that. But the brain is very unique. I think statistics shows us that, like, we don't know. I think, but maybe 20% of what the brain's capabilities are actually capable of. But what do you think about that when it comes to kind of that, no expectation around this as it relates to mental health?
yeah. That's a good question, Brandon. I like a few things pop up for me when it comes to the word expectations. Certainly, one of them, okay, expectations in mental health. Um, there's a lot. Okay, yeah, this is a pretty deep topic. I mean, a lot of things that we can talk about here. I've got two thoughts.
And I love it. This is why I love you, man.
Yeah, yeah. We do get to have some fun conversations, don't we? Yeah, I think like one of the things when it comes to mental health, and in therapy with people as well as expectations is like, what do you expect from your significant other? What do you expect from your employer? What do you expect out of life? I think generally attachment to expectations often leads to dissatisfaction or discontent. This is in line with a lot of Buddhist philosophy, right? Like attachment and non-attachment. If we're attached to an outcome, it has the ability to really affect us emotionally. But when we're able to let go of expectations of what should or could happen, it can be beneficial. We loosen up. We have a little bit more broader response options, what we can do in a given moment, and that's uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of people want to cling tightly to what they expect. And I'm not saying there's not always times to say I'm going to work hard to achieve a goal and I expect this to happen. That's not what I'm saying, but it can be hard, especially with your mental health, to say I expect to wake up happy every day. Or I expect someone else to fulfill me. I expect my employer to treat me great all the time. Right? That's when we start running into trouble. Is when expectations become rigidly held, and when expectations aren't examined. Is this so I think I would say that first. When it comes to mental health, if your finger is constantly on the pulse of how's my mental health today, you're going to be pretty miserable.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're going to be spending all of your effort and energy measuring something that's really hard to measure, rather than attempting to perhaps embrace what's happening in your life, or notice and allow your emotions to be there or your thoughts to be there without trying to pin them down or get rid of them.
Yeah.
The more that you attempt to do that, the more that you try to not think about something or you try to feel a certain way, the less you're going to have it, right? It's like, the Chinese finger trap, right? Like if I'm trying to, resist, to get away from or control everything around me, I'm just going to get stuck more. So
Yeah.
I think that don't get me wrong, there's times to try and exert your force on the universe. And then there are other times where letting go and allowing things is the healthiest, best thing you could do for your mental health.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great answer, because I think, quite frankly, we will just do this because we are on Championship Sunday, right? And I'm a sports guy. I know you are too. But anytime you hear a coach tell a player just to go play free, right? Go play free, man. I'll even like IU is a great example of it, I think, right? I mean, I think Coach Signetti poured his time into the fundamentals of what football is, right? He's built a very good, as he calls it, a checklist around his preparing for a game, blocking, tackling, special teams, all that kind of stuff, right? But he even mentioned this in an interview once, and I think this came from Nick Saban, is just let your players play, man. Right? Now, to your point, there's expectation there, right? But if you can get a mind to not put, I love that comment that you just made. And I think you just framed it up as is, if you put expectation around your mental health every day, you're going to be pretty miserable.
Yeah,
right?
if you're constantly grading yourself, or like rating how well you feel, it's going to be tough, because you're inevitably going to experience some anxiety or frustration or boredom at some point. So if you're looking at your challenging experiences or difficult emotions as problems, then you're going to be perpetually in problem solving mode, trying to wonder why you're not feeling as good as your neighbor who seems to be happy all the time, or whatever.
Yeah, the world. I mean, I think the world has, the world around us has a lot to do with it, as well. And I don't know if I mean, I have an opinion, right? I don't know if I have an answer when it comes to like why, but if you just look at over time, you know what I mean? You even look back into the early 1900s, into the 1910s, 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way up to where we're at today. There's this underlining message of continually succeeding and succeeding and succeeding and succeeding. You know what I mean? And it reminds me of that mindset of expectation, right? Like I
Yeah.
need to win every day. I need to win every day. I need to win every day.
Yeah.
You know,
What like
yeah,
why?
I mean, I
Why?
can tell you this, you know, for me personally, after experiencing, you know, that time frame, and you know, this might be too, Tommy, just the time of life that I live in. I'm 55 years old,
Yeah.
and so, you know, my wife and I have dealt with the loss of her parents, and you know, we've dealt with loss of friends, close friends, and um, you know, I dealt a couple years ago with the loss of my, you know, my stepmother who's very close to us, and you know, my stepdad Katie, God love him, he's, you know, he's battling cancer right now, and so there might be some mortality kind of check too into why my I think the way that I do today. Because I'll tell you, Tommy, in my 20s and 30s, and even in my early 40s, man, I was that guy running hard. Like I need to succeed. I need to succeed. I need to make more money. I need to have a bigger house. I need to, you know, my kids need to wear better shoes. I need to wear better clothes. I need to have the better, you know, big screen TV. I need to have a better car. I need to have, like, that was always kind of a mental kind of checkpoint in me. Like, am I succeeding?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I just feel like now there's nothing wrong with it. I'll tell you that now from where I'm at today. There's nothing wrong with working hard and succeeding. That's not the point here. But I think when you know, I'll just say it, when life kicks you, I mean, because it's going to kick you at some point in time. It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
Like you're going to run into a life challenge at some point in time in life, right? Um, I just think that at that point in time, you know, you're going to be in a spot. And I was in a spot that it revealed it to me, like, if I continue on this path, I'm never going to be able to take a step back or take a time out, because I've been on full gas mode for a better part of 25 to 30 years.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and that's what I love having these conversations with you, because those nuggets come out like you just mentioned. If you're always putting your mental wellness on a gauge, right, every day, um, you're going to be miserable. And I believe this, and I'd love your insight on this too. Like, I believe everybody does have a mental health barometer. Some days you're going to have a shitty day. Some days you're going to have a great day. And guess what? Both are okay.
Yeah.
Both are just fine.
Yeah. There's a kids book about that. Um, it's by Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like Today I Feel Silly or something like that. I'm trying to remember.
Okay, yeah.
But like that, probably most adults could do well to read that book, um,
Mm-hmm.
because the whole book is just about how she experienced this little girl, goes through her day and has big emotions.
Yeah.
And you read the book, you go through the book, and you're like, oh yeah, this is actually what life is about when we let it. You know, we don't try to control everything. Is we have days, yeah, where things work out. We feel proud of ourselves. We have days where we feel awkward or embarrassed for people around us or ourselves. We have days where we feel a lot of disappointment or we're just fatigued. So yeah, some days are just like that. And if you're learning to accept that, I think is hard for most people. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the more older we get, the more ability we have to control our environments because we have all these skill sets of being an adult. We have
Yeah.
greater ability to we think we have greater ability to control everything, or you know, the environments around us, and so we trick ourselves. We think that we're really powerful, but
Yeah.
all it takes is something. You know, all it takes is something to happen in a split second. A car accident, you know, a diagnosis, someone dies,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and
A
you've got
job
to,
loss. I
yeah, you
mean,
can't run forever. You can't run
no.
forever from it.
Yeah. And
So
I just, you know, and again, I purposely probably bring some of these kind of topics up because, you know, at our events, you know, at our monthly meetings, like we have a monthly meeting coming up. We're doing something a little bit different this year. At least I'm trying something a little bit different. And I've had a great relationship with a restaurant in Noblesville, Indiana, called Ginger's Cafe, and Mickey's a wonderful superhuman, is what she is. And I really love our friendship. And so this year, starting in January, on January 31st, we're just gonna have a breakfast. And so, you know, if people want to come out and just hang out at breakfast, you know this, you can be a test to a witness to this. Like, we're never going to be like, okay, Tommy, how are you feeling today, buddy?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to see people run for the hills, just do that to them, you know? That's not what we are. There may be a place for that, and that's okay, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, man, I've used my counseling services that I have through my work now for a better part of 5 years. And that's okay in that setting. We at Building a Refuge just don't do that, though,
Yeah.
right? We just like to have, folks come out, understand that you're going to come there, meet some new people. If a topic naturally develops, then a topic naturally develops. That's the way we like to roll. And
Yeah.
so we'll see how it goes. But I like having these discussions. Another point that you and I have talked a lot about, Tommy, and I really love this. And I think you framed it up this way. And correct me, I apologize if I'm wrong. But like when two people go through the same thing, like you and I have experienced, a family member lost by suicide in a family member, and it's tough. But you and I can share that experience, and we can walk in each other's shoes to understand that. And I think you phrased that up as universalism or some term to that. I may be wrong, but talk to me a little bit about that, Tommy, on why you think or why you see it's beneficial when you can bring people together from a common experience and
Yeah.
express feelings around
Yeah. Yeah. You've got a good memory, Brandon.
it.
I remember that conversation. That was back probably like 5 years ago or 6 years ago at Beer Brewery
Hmm.
outside at night. We were talking.
Yeah, it's you.
Um,
You got a better memory than I do because I didn't remember that. You're right.
uh,
We were at Beer Brewery when we were getting ready to leave.
that's right, in Carmel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Universality is like this is a kind of like a group therapy concept. I'm not sure who where that, like, I don't know if it was Irvin Yalom or who it was, but it's a thing, right? Where when people hear the experiences of others that mirror in some way their experience, they can gain a sense of relief and connection. And I think that oh, I'm not alone, right? And so what that does is it gets rid of a little bit of pity for yourself. If you do pity yourself for the things that have happened to you, like, oh, woe is me, which again, I'm not judging that either. Like, that happens to everybody at some point. But universality or common, in self-compassion, it's called common humanity, which is there are other people in the world right now that might be experiencing the exact same thing or something very similar to what I'm experiencing. What
Yeah.
that does is it gets you out of yourself, and I think that's really important for mental health, is to take perspective. It gives you perspective. It gives you a sense of not being alone, right? This isn't something only I'm dealing with. And so that's also, part of like the meetups that Building a Refuge offers a space where that can happen naturally,
Hmm.
and not under the context of we're all here for group therapy for grief. We're here for group therapy for having a kid with special needs. We're just here. And by the way, I'm not saying Building a Refuge is not group therapy, but what the context that the meetups provide is a natural opportunity for people to potentially connect, should they feel comfortable talking about things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's different. It's not quite the same, but you get, that can absolutely happen in a group setting where people feel less alone. They feel, they can step out of themselves a little bit.
Yeah. And that, I mean, look, I would be remiss if I told you that, we don't shoot for that to some extent, right? We do shoot for that when it comes to, doing our events and having people come out. You know what I mean? We don't, what I don't do, I know what Eric doesn't do, what you have not done. What we don't do is okay, Saturday, January 23rd, we're going to talk about what it means to be an addict. Like, that's not what we do,
Yeah.
right? What I hope we can do is like when we get into these settings, we just hang out. And if I didn't know you from Adam, I'd be like, hey, Tommy, how are you? I'm Brandon. You're Tommy, blah, blah, blah. I'm genuinely interested in people. So usually the first question I come is like, Tommy, are you an Indiana guy? You live here in Indiana? And you'd probably say naturally, no. Well, I live here now, but I'm originally from Virginia. And right already then, you're like, really? So and I think it takes people. I know everybody's not like me, and I'm not like everybody else, right? If anybody's done a Myers-Briggs assessment, I am an off-the-chart E. Okay, not going to surprise anybody.
Yeah.
Um, But I'm that way because I'm genuinely interested in people's stories.
Yeah.
You know, because look, this, you can see this back here, right? This map, it looks like.
Yeah.
That's a genealogy family tree on my Liam side of the family that dates back to 15, I think it's like 1500.
Sweet.
That's insane.
It's really cool.
Like, think if you can travel back and speak to that guy in the center of this, or lady, from 1489.
It would be amazing.
It's just it blows my mind. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, you know, I am genuinely interested in. I think if, you know, if you just ask the right questions, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty good of understanding, like, if somebody wants to share and not share, right? I mean, you can pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I think that's what we do. You know what I mean? We just try to gain a new friend at the end of the
Yeah.
day, gain a new network, you know, because here's the deal, Tommy. I know this and you know this. You may go through a job loss tomorrow. I may go through a job loss tomorrow. We might go through an experience tomorrow. You might go through an experience tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, and if you have somebody, like, here, I'll just put it this way. I told somebody this the other day, right? So you and I talked about this the other night too. On February 28th, we're doing an event, which is not for everybody. I happen to dig it, called the Heavy Metal for Hope. It's our
Awesome.
second year doing it, so Heavy Metal for Hope 2. It's at a really good friend of mine's place down in downtown Indianapolis called 416 Wabash. I've had a handful of people come up to me and tell me that they really enjoyed that, and that's why we're doing it again.
Yeah.
And so I told someone the other day, I said, look, if we get one person to come out, right, that I don't even know, and they come and they have a great experience at that event, right?
Yeah.
And it gets them to say something maybe that about their might be going through to somebody. Like, hey, I went to this event, super cool, not what I expected at all, to be a mental health benefit concert, right?
Mm.
Mental health, suicide prevention. But I'm going through this. If that happens one time,
Yeah.
I'm good. I am 100% good with what we do.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. You know, for people to share that kind of information takes a level of trust in you know, who they're confiding in, and so part of what you're talking about is also creating, you know, a context or an environment that you know, gets people there, right?
Yeah.
Or gets them closer to feeling comfortable enough to maybe share something deeply personal. So yeah, it takes creating an environment that people feel safe or
Yeah.
trust.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, I don't know. I mean, you know, we host a few events across the year. I don't think we do too many. You know what I mean? I do get asked a lot, like, "Hey, you know, are you going to do more? Are you going to do more? Are you going to do more?" Look, I'd love to. If Pat McAfee wants to come on here and let me kick a field goal for a couple $100,000,
Yeah.
and I'm in. I'd love to do that.
Hey,
But you know,
practice your field goal kicks. Let's get them in. Let's get
I
them.
mean, I'm pretty confident I could hit one from 25 yards.
That's pretty good.
25 for 250. I'm pretty confident. Like, I feel
Okay.
like at 55 I could still put one through at 25 yards.
Hell yeah.
I don't know about 30. We'd have to see how that works out. But I mean, you know, I would love to do it. But I mean, we purposely kind of do these in this cadence because one, it's hard to get people to come out, and I know people have busy schedules, right? And so a lot of times, you know, these type of environments are actually like, if somebody just calls me and I pick this phone up, right, and have a phone call with somebody, that sometime is sufficient for what we do, right? So, you know, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, you know, I just, you know, I encourage folks to check us out only from that perspective, is that we don't necessarily operate maybe what you think a mental health suicide prevention support group would operate like. We just don't, and a lot of that is, I think, And you can speak to this more directly, I think, Tommy, from your background. Men and women are completely different when it comes to being able to share emotion and share feeling. Dudes are just a little bit more reclusive to do it. We just are. Um, and like I said, I do believe this. I'm a music junkie. I like all kinds of music. So I'm not kind of one flavor or the other. But I know when we bring people together in an environment where we can put music around it, we can put some decent food around it, we're usually going to get a couple people to come. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Well, and that's been shown. I mean, I can. There have been tons of building a refuge events with fantastic music
yeah.
and fantastic food.
And it's family. We encourage people to bring family out. I had somebody ask me this the other day. They're like, well, is this just for, is just for men only? And I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, sure, we are a men's mental health focused group, right?
Yeah,
Like that's what we are. But no, we're not. We are absolutely 100% family oriented. We are 100%, not just we're not a he-man woman haters club. I
for
mean,
sure.
you've been around it long enough to know that too.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so Tommy, as we, kind of, I don't want to say wrap up. We still have some time here, but I do want to ask you a little bit more of a direct question
Sure.
for the audience and for me too, because you and I have experienced this. And I think you just mentioned, you had a 25th anniversary of losing your father. I had 11 years of losing my brother. But for those that listen in that might have experienced loss of somebody by suicide, as we live in that group of suicide survivors, right?
Yeah.
Um, how do you work through that
Hmm.
as a survivor? And it's been a long time. You probably have and it might not be long enough here to talk on this show, but how do you kind of deal with it at times, maybe when it rears its head or comes back around, or you might get a question about it or things like that?
Yeah. Well, I can answer. Let me answer the tail end of that question first. Um, something that I've found. I don't know if you've found this as well. Is that most people, if they ask, um, about your dad or like for you, your brother, um, they want to end the conversation pretty quickly. Like most
Hmm.
people don't really. That's
Yeah,
my
and
experience
that's fair.
overall has been and then there's some level of awkwardness or like
Yep.
I haven't met a lot of people that are really willing to like what happened. Like I would be
Yeah.
surprised if someone asked me that, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
Uh, but in terms of like coping with it, all I have what I had access to is how I dealt with it, which wasn't always great.
Yeah.
And I have access to what I know about grief and loss and suicide and trauma. So I can kind of answer a few different ways, but what I would say is like I was 15, and when it happened, I had like pretty limited direction. Not to say that I didn't have support. Like my mom, was supportive, and my siblings, um, but we never talked about it ever.
Hmm.
Um, it wasn't a thing, So I think it's a problem to ignore, like to pretend like it never happened.
Hmm.
And at this point, also, with the way that my dad died, it was the circumstances around it weren't clear to everybody. I was there, so it was different for me than it was for maybe extended family. Like my mom. I told my mom obviously
Yeah.
that happened, what happened and stuff. She was out of town. It was just me and my brother
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
my grandparents. And then my grandparents died shortly after my dad did. But where I'm going with this is that and I don't blame. By the way, I hope anyone that's hearing me, I'm not blaming anybody for any of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just the
I'm
way
glad you brought that up. I
it
agree
was
with
just
you.
the way that
Yeah.
it rolled out, right? Like, um, I don't have any feelings. I mean, maybe there was a time where I held on to some resentment, but about the way that things happened.
Sure.
But it took me a little bit to get over that, to maybe forgive people. Um, I think being a therapist and the kind of therapy I do has helped me um, release or let go of a lot of things that happened that I wish hadn't happened,
Hmm.
and it enabled me to see people's behavior as all that's understandable. So, so this is the hardest part, because if you take the stance that all behavior makes sense, and that all behavior is shaped based on individual learning history and biological stuff, then you eventually get to a point where you say, of course this happened because of this. We just don't have the full documentary of everyone's lives to say, oh, this is why they made this choice.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is, when you get to a point where you can understand that all behavior is rational, it all makes sense. We just don't always have the exact numbers for the equation. Then you can let go and say, something must have shown up for this person in their life such that they responded in this way in this situation. So that helped me to forgive and let go of a lot of things that happened in the preceding years. But I would say this. Let me actually answer the question. Um, to take care of yourself, um, after you experience the death of someone close to you, whether that's suicide or whatever, uh,
Yep.
don't be quiet about it. Like if you're struggling or you don't know what's going on, you need to ask for help. If you're a teenager or a kid, hopefully you've got an adult around you that cares about you, that will
Yeah.
say what's wrong, because that could have helped me. Like as a teenager, if someone
Yeah.
was like, I can tell that things aren't the same for you, Tommy, and like you're really depressed and you're like getting into bad stuff. Like that never happened for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we never talked about it. So
Yeah, and I think not to jump in here. I do only because like you and I talked about this the other night at the coffee shop as well. Um, your perspective, you said you were 15, right? And it was your father. I was 45, and it was my brother. So if you even just take that into context, I was a 45-year-old man.
yeah,
You were a 15-year-old adolescent.
yeah,
And to your point, I think it's a great point because it's I hate that it will happen. It happens
yeah,
across any age, right? So
yeah,
whether you're 5 years old, if you lose a parent, brother, sibling, uncle, whatever, or you're my age at 45 or older, um, and I think to your point, and I love that you bring that up. If and I, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it now. We have resources, right?
yeah,
And I'll bring one up right now. There's a great resource that we have for teenagers and adults too, by being able to text, right, 494949, and having an anonymous conversation with somebody. It's anonymous. It's a text. In the world that we live in today, everybody likes to have a quiet place and a lone conversation, but it's a great starting point.
yeah,
You can text refuge to that 494949. It's supported by a company out of Fort Wayne, Indiana called Remedy Live. They're fantastic. They're amazing. Clinton Foppel, a wonderful man, great organization of what they do. Um, and what we know from a national perspective, right? 988 obviously is a huge
yeah,
one. For our veterans, the same thing. There's resources for our vets out there. But to your point, Tommy, I mean, your brain, your mind, wasn't, you were just, it was a, like, that's what fascinates me too. Like how you process and where you are today and how, look where we're at together. Like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like I'm the ever optimist. That's who I am. I'm an optimistic guy. And so I do believe that like we are somehow energetically put together for good. You know what I mean? And I love being able to share this with people because you just mentioned, somebody, if you tell them that, they don't ask, like, hey, what happened? How were you after that? How'd you do with it? Because I think they're scared to, out of respect.
I think that's part of it for sure. It's definitely culturally taboo. I think um, people don't, are uncomfortable as well. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
to avoid those emotions, you try to change the topic, or you say, "I'm so sorry." I think it takes a little bit of, uh, it's a little, like vulnerable to ask someone more because you also might be making them feel uncomfortable. And so, in order to not make them uncomfortable, you just don't say anything, right? Is
Yeah.
what ends up happening. So, and that's a lot. That's very Western culture, right? Like, let's not talk about. Let's not. let's not get into it. Let's not talk about it. I mean, that's also other cool.
Well, so let me give you a prime example. I won't obviously allude to any name or whatever, but I'll say this: an experience that I had. Somebody shared with me once a story of back in, I'll say the early church years. I'll say, pre 1900 or maybe around the late 1800s, early 1900s. If somebody took their own life, that family might have to actually bury them in the middle of the night.
Yeah, secretly.
Secretly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, we're not that far removed from that. I mean,
No.
it all comes back into social. We're wired for social acceptance. We survive better in a tribe than alone. To stay in the tribe, we do whatever the tribe does. So yeah, we don't want to be the outcast or the weirdo that gets kicked out. We all want some level of social acceptance. We see this in school shooter profiles, right? Like people who are outcast, bullied, rejected. People who basically were kicked out of a tribe or had no tribe.
Yeah,
what do you do? What do you do under those conditions? So yeah, it's this is how a lot of us are wired for social acceptance. What do we do for social acceptance? We don't talk about death. We don't bring it up. We don't talk about our problems. We compete and try to gain the most status through items, possessions, and things like that, right? So all of the things that were evolutionarily designed for us to survive and thrive are sometimes the same things that get in the way of healing from a mental health perspective.
Yeah. I love it. I think, and that, again, I go back. I mean, I hope you don't care that I brag on you a little bit, but I love having you do, Tommy, listen, you bring credible, not only life experience, but your studies and what you've learned through your professional life to the table. And I look, man, I think it's valuable. I know it's valuable for me. And I believe in my heart, that somebody that listens to this out there, again, randomly listens to this, if they're here for that reason, they get some value out of that, right? Or at least it makes them think. It makes them think like, I didn't think about that way,
Yeah, well, you're very generous, Brent. I appreciate that, and I appreciate being able to have these conversations with you. And I see things through a particular perspective, and sometimes that perspective is helpful for people. And I try to examine the way I talk and think about things, and I want to be helpful mostly is what it comes down to. But I also crave understanding and knowledge. So I think.
Well, I tell people this a lot. You know what I mean? Like when we're in these environments, where we're kind of taking the time out and we're like, okay, hey, let's have a discussion around this today at a 1 o'clock on a Sunday. You know what I mean? I'm in the safe confines of my basement. You're in the safe confines of your home. But guess what? We as soon as we open that door, it's on. And I tell people that a lot. Like, I go to a men's group pretty regularly where we meet and everybody is safe and comfortable, right? While we're having breakfast and, enjoying one another's conversations. And an always reminder of like, look, you guys just be on guard because as soon as we walk out this door, man, it's on. Like the world's on. You know what I mean? And it is. I mean, again, you know me well enough, Tommy. Like I'm an optimist in terms of I'm a believer in good, and I'm a believer that we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day a couple weeks ago, right? And I do believe that the light will always prevail. I just do.
Yeah.
Because I think you and I had this conversation once, right? And it came up through my good friend Eric Bunke up in Wisconsin. He loves reading, and he reads a lot of books, kind of fiction books, but they're based off of real places in Wisconsin. Fantastic, author that I don't remember. But anyways, but there was a section of this book that brought up Blaise Pascal. And it's the Pascal theory, right? And essentially, it's you can go through our life and not believe in God, right? And there's nothing wrong with that.
Are you talking about Pascal's nature?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And see, you corrected me on that. I just know from learning this, right? And I love it.
It's the four
But I
with
think,
belief in God, and it talks about
yeah,
consequences. Yeah.
it's to me, it's a fascinating question, right? But I'm always the one like, hey, man, I'm going to believe in something. And if I'm wrong at the end of it, what does it hurt to believe in it?
Yeah,
You know,
there's
we might have a whole other show on that, just in general.
for sure. Well, there was someone that I have learned a lot from in my career, and gotten done some direct workshops with him. Was Kelly Wilson, who was a psychologist and really heavily influential in the acceptance commitment therapy, the development of acceptance commitment therapy. Um, Really, really fantastic clinician, writer, behavior analyst, psychologist. But he had he had something he called Wilson's wager, which was like Pascal's wager on the Foursquare, but I believe it was about values. And you know the what gosh, I have to go back and look at my old notes
Yeah.
a long time ago, but it was about values and valued living, and like um, you know when we're able to live by our values, we may experience pain, but the alternative is not living by our values, um, and
Mm.
where pain is also a possibility.
Hmm.
So, would you rather hurt, if you're going to be hurt in some way or experience difficulty or pain, you may as well choose the path that at least matters to you, rather than choosing a path that does not matter to you. Pain
Right.
is coming for you inevitably, but
Yeah.
how do you want to experience it? Do you want to experience it on the road to doing what deeply matters to you or what you care about, or do you want to experience it on the road of avoiding everything because you don't want to feel the emotions connected to what matters to you?
Yeah.
So,
See, that's a fun. Like so Tommy, I'll ask you this, just from maybe possibilities of future shows.
yeah,
I'd propose, if you're open to it, is maybe like once a quarter we'll get on and have a chat about that, like
sure,
things like that. I think they're fascinating discussions in
yeah,
the generality of life, right? In the generality of navigating life, because I mean, it's you can sit and it will make you go, well, okay. Because I do believe, like, I mean, there's a fork in the road, right? You can choose,
yeah.
I mean, you can choose it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it takes a little bit of work to get really clear on, are these my personally chosen authored values? Is this how I want to live, or am I living my life based on what my family, society, my religion expect me?
Right.
Am I performing, or am I authentically living? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would be down for any kind of these discussions are fun for me, and
Yeah.
I'd be down.
Well, I love having them, man. I mean, this has worked out. This environment, like when I got turned on to this software to do these on, I thought it would be a nice complement to what we do on a monthly basis at
Yeah,
Indie Coffee Roasters. And and or if we have folks, for example, we can invite anybody on these as long as you got an email address, a phone, and a computer or whatever, right? You can sit in Alaska, or you can sit in the Bahamas, or you can sit wherever, and we can have these. And
yeah.
so I just think it's pretty cool. And me, I'm always asking, I'm always asking people in the entertainment business, like, would you come and join our podcast? You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't care. Tommy, look, man, I don't care to be told no, dude. I've been told no a lot of my life. So
That's a
does
gift too, Brandon.
does not hurt my feelings in the least.
That's how I am too. I don't really care.
Yeah.
If you can say
Yeah.
no to me, go ahead.
Yeah. No, well, listen, man, I just really appreciate your insight, man. I appreciate our friendship, and I'm so grateful, like, we can do this. Like I said, I
Yeah,
admire you have a very clear perspective of you, and I think that's fantastic. And
thank
so the
you.
fact that, like, things have changed for you over the past 12 months, that now has given you a little more flexibility to be able to do some of these things, man. I just love it, Tommy, and I appreciate you, having this conversation today.
Well, Brandon, I greatly appreciate you, man. It's always good to talk with you and meet with you, and I'm grateful to spend some time doing this. So please, yeah, let's keep doing these kinds of things, and anything
Yeah.
I can do to support building a refuge.
Yeah, well, we appreciate everybody that supports us. We have a lot of great organizations over the past 12 months that have been very supportive of us, namely, the VFW here in Carmel, Indiana. So if you're a veteran, thank you so much for your service. I am very grateful for you. And if you are struggling, there's some resources out there, of course, 988 and some of the national hotlines, but we have a really good resource at building a refuge that we can help with. So don't hesitate reaching out to us. I'll put up some information. I go back and I edit these a little bit post show, so I can drop in some resources, for everybody to have at the end of the show. But really appreciate you coming on, my friend. Stay warm over there on the eastern side of Hamilton County. Downtown Carmel, we're at about 9 inches or plus of snow, and
Yeah.
my wonderful wife is out shoveling, so I'll probably help her here in a little bit. But hey, before we wrap up, you got any picks for the Super Bowl?
I have no.
Like who's going to be playing?
Dude, I don't even know. I don't even know what's. I've only been paying attention to Indiana football
Yeah.
for the past bit.
Yeah, no. So we have the Denver Broncos and the New England Patriots playing early today, 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And we have the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams playing later today. I will go out on a ledge and say we are going to have a Seahawks Broncos Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's my pick.
So I would actually hope for that too, and here's why. In 2013, I lived in Washington State for a year. When I lived there, I became a Seahawks fan by residence.
Right on. Yeah.
And that was the year that the Seahawks blew out the Broncos.
Oh.
Broncos Super Bowl. That was 2013 or 14. It's one of those years.
But yeah, that was when Marshawn Lynch and that gang of just
that's right. And
bad boys, dude. Those guys were good.
Everyone thought the Broncos were going to win, if I recall, and the Seahawks just blew them out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think Elway was in that. Elway was on that Broncos team too. I think I'm pretty sure. That was one of his last years.
Yeah, it was 2013,
maybe
14. I don't remember.
Yeah, well, it should be pretty good, man. I'm a little chafed, that our Green Bay Packers, got decimated by injuries this year. But I will say this: look, people are always like, oh, you probably hate the Bears, and I'm not a Bears fan, not a Vikings fan, and I'm not a Detroit Lions fan. Okay, but I am excited about the NFC North being a very competitive conference in the coming years, because anytime the Packers and Bears rivalry fire is burning hot, which it is burning hot right now, the NFL's better all the way around.
Sweet.
So,
yeah.
I can always appreciate that. But all right, Tommy, well, have a great day, buddy. I just appreciate you, and we'll wrap it up with some music here from my man Dale. And stay warm, my friend. Till next time. Thank you for joining, everybody. Have a good day.
Lonely night, spiraling, no one that I can call. Parents gone again, I'm so alone. My toes are on the ledge. It's a Friday night, football game. Check my Twitter feed, they're making fun.